Yeah. Hey everyone. Oh, don't worry, I'll mute because I know there's a lot of background noise.
Are you at KubeCon, David?
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're just waiting for Mike and Todd. They're going to connect from somewhere. But yeah, we should have quite a few people. Hopefully.
Can you show us the huge expanse of KubeCon behind you? It's very quiet. Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. So I think the booth area hasn't opened yet. It only opens in half an hour. That's why it's still nice and quiet.
Very cool.
But there also hasn't been, let's say, an incredible amount of people. It's full, but not completely.
Yes, I guess. I'm just doing muted so I'm sure machines. Yeah, hello everyone. See if we can turn this volume up. Hello, can you hear us?
Yep.
Perfect. Hi. We have
Hey.
Alex all here.
We are just picking at a table, maybe. Yeah. So sorry for the
Yeah, you're
background, but for some reasons my earpads do not connect, and I have no idea why. Must be a bug and not a feature in this case.
Like that. Yeah. All right. I'll try to get as many people in the shot as possible. All right. Cool. Well, we didn't really have a whole lot of time to add any prep notes, so we can, right from our perspective, just give a echo. Perfect. Just kind of an update of what's happened so far and KubeCon and kind of what we did in preparation for it as well. So let me see here. Do we have a scribe this time? Is there any volunteers?
I'll scribe.
Perfect.
I already volunteered, but I'm happy to not volunteer.
Oh, no, perfect. You don't mind? That'd be great.
Yep.
Cool. All right, and then the meeting notes are already linked in the chat. If anyone has any items, please feel free to add them. I'll go ahead and get started. All right, and if there's newcomer, it looks like there are a couple. If you don't mind introducing yourself real quick, that would be great.
Yeah. Hey, my name is Mark Phelps. I'm the founder of Flipped, which is an open source self-hosted feature flag solution. And I've been to a meeting before, but it was a long time ago. It was like one of the first meetings you guys did. And I'm looking into creating a provider for Flipped. And this is my colleague, George, who I'll pass the mic to.
Hi, yeah, my name's George. I work with Mark. I've just started to join Mark. Been building Flip now for many years, but he's just got the capacity to bring more people on board. So I'm the first extra.
That's how you're thinking. Perfect. Yeah, nice to meet you. Welcome. All right. And let's see. Cool. All right. Let's check the schedule. Yeah, it looks like rules for the next meeting. So if there's any volunteers for that, we can go ahead and knock that out real quick. It's mainly scribe duty. So if you can be here in 2 weeks and you don't mind taking notes for an hour, please let us know. Justin will do it. Thank you very much. All right. And first up, it looks like Eloise.
Yeah, I had some hacked points added. Let me just quickly check out because I added two. Which ones I wanted to start with? Yes. Up level of the community repositories. So some of you might have already seen it. I started to do some commits. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm restructuring a lot of the community repository right now to fit also what OpenTelemetry does. So this is really not about reinventing things, but restructuring. I think OpenTelemetry does a great job in doing it, like also outlining what maintainers are, what their roles are, how to reach out to the individual SDK implementation groups. It is still in an early stage, but I'll reach out to several of you, help me, especially on the SDKs, what we have in maintainers, who the technical committee sponsors are. So I'd really like to get this up to a level where I think for new people joining in would be like super simple. Again, we have the rough version. Also on the community side, it's about like the governance board. I want to get some of the documents which we had for quite a while into a more stable state. Like there were proposals on the charter, but they were never agreed upon really by the maintainers in an early draft stage. I also want to get all of these things moving right now, so just that everyone's aware. So this is going to happen over the next couple of weeks, especially if you're responsible for one of the SDKs. I would appreciate if we can support some of the information. I'll add it to the docs, where to find documentation, who's the maintainer on it, and also hope from the PC supporting it. Next step then will be to get the community, especially the governance board, into working mode, but obviously that's an activity with the entire governance board. What does working mode mean? Getting into regular meetings, and also we need to get into an official voting cycle and ensure that everybody who wants to be represented is going to be represented. I very much like the approach that OpenTelemetry has taken. They launched their Bootstrap governing board, which stayed in place for 2 years, and then they brought on new people, and then the people are rotating out. The idea was that they don't immediately rotate out everyone to have some continuity, and the new people are coming in. So I also expect the PR where I will propose a similar approach that to what OpenTelemetry has used as well. Yeah, and if you, I think depending on today's time, I can share them more details, but just to be aware, we are moving in that direction, getting the charter set up and everything. So the things are working out. Also, I can briefly mention that Kevin from GitLab left the governance board right now. And Alex is going to join, which we are very delighted about, to have Alex on the board. And obviously, we also want to achieve a fair balance of everybody participating, especially in the Bootstrap governance board. So if there are, the way we are handling it for the time being, as there is no official process yet, is that you can submit the PR that you want to join. And then the other governance board members are simply approving the PR for the time being. We want to cap it at some point. Also, Mike and I talked, we are aware of the fact that right now there are 2 Dynatrace employees part of the governance board. Also air your concerns if you think that you have any issues with this, then Mike and I will consolidate on governance board topics. Just let us know. I mean, it's just it's happened historically. But if you don't feel comfortable, just feel free to speak up or if there are any problems.
Which repo is
the community repo? Just it's in the community repo. Sorry for the background noise, but somebody decided to build a road.
It's fine. There's actually not much background noise at all.
Oh, okay.
Modern
They
technology.
built the road under. They built the road like literally underneath the conference floor here. Just a second. So posting it to the chat. Just a second. And as we're here, I'm also using the OpenTelemetry community one to share how they actually handle the voting process on the governance board. Okay, let me quickly share. So the way OpenTelemetry did this, and I think that might be pretty viable for us as well. So initially they had like 5 people on the bootstrapping governance board. And they have these 2 election cohorts. So they were then voting for 2 people with a 2-year time and 2 people with a 1-year term. What happened the next year, obviously the 2-year term people stayed on the board. The 2 people with the 1-year term rotated out. And then the year after, the initial governance board, the Bootstrap governance board rotated out entirely. Obviously, they were up for re-election. This actually means that initially the number of total governance board members will be going up slightly. But I think that should be fine, especially as more companies are joining here. And I think I would just use exactly the same approach there unless anybody has any concerns. It worked for OpenTelemetry well. I think it can work for us pretty much the same way. So I'll throw this into a PR rather sooner than later. And on it, if you have any comments right now, please also feel free to share them right here. I'm also posting the link to the chat here. But basically, this is really designed for. Okay. Any questions so far? Unless we can move on to the next topic. Again, there will be a PR that we can have the discussion over.
Yeah, I have a point or a question. On that topic, I was just speaking to one of the OpenTelemetry community members last night, and they were saying they're making changes to the way they elect their technical steering committee. I'm thinking it might be worth our time right now, if you're already going to make these changes, to kind of also lay out how we're going to do the TSC nominations or elections. The way that it sounds like OTEL is going, which I think could expedite things and make things simpler, is that the governing board just nominates the TSC, or they vote for them within the governing board. So I'm not sure if that could be a way to simplify things. I think they have like a limited term, but maybe that would be easier because it would reduce the amount of voting that we have to do. Just a proposal.
Yeah, I think we can do this. For me, the most important thing is that we have one governance board that has a charter right now that is approved, which we don't have right now. So I just want to get the basics out. The TC would then be the next topic to work on, obviously. Yeah, I think we have reached the maturity of the project and an involvement from people that we need to get this done rather sooner than later.
All right. Is there anything else on that topic?
Not from my side.
Okay, cool. Looks like the next item was OpenFeature incubation. Not sure who added that, but if they don't mind elaborating real quick, please.
So I think, I think for obviously incubating projects have way more access to marketing within the CNCF. We would get our own project meetings on site. We would get a full day booth and everything. Having gone through this process in the past, I know it's like a very, very lengthy process. And if we want to achieve this by KubeCon Europe next year, which I think we should, I would kick off the process pretty much right away. So having the application, we are almost there. The only criteria which we're not fulfilling right now are 3 implementations in production. I think we can reach this throughout actually the application process, to be fair. Obviously, we have Justin here with eBay, and with some of the others who are actively adopting it, I think it's fine. But this process for other projects that I was working on took about a year. And there's usually also lockdown periods before KubeCons for the TOC. That's why I think right now I would actually go for incubation right away. I'm also trying to meet with Chris because technically, if we get the governance and everything right, and given the number of contributors we have, we could, in theory, move directly to graduation as well, which would be kind of uncommon, but I at least want to get the incubation started. So that's just, if anybody is against it, but I would highly advise we start the process right now by submitting the issue to the TOC. and then getting started on the overall process for getting the incubation document ready, because this is going to be a longer exercise anyways.
Yep, makes sense to me. Okay.
Any other opinions?
No, I just know that even Sandbox took a long time. So the sooner we get it started, the better for us. Makes sense.
Yeah, but what we might also want to do along the way, which also helped with Sandbox, which was some unofficial advice, that also to do a PR together with the 1.0 release amongst this group that we're also now applying for incubation.
I know there's a lot of people who've contributed to the project thus far with the intent of putting aspects of it in production at their companies. So I think, you know, Ben, that was one of the reasons he was working on the .NET SDK and contributing. I think there's a few other cases like that too. So I think, I wonder if we need to kind of reach out to these people or mention it in the Slack channel that this is going to be important for the next CNCF stage, and just be like, hey, if you're willing to kind of go public with your adoption, please let us know, because I think it would be good to track that for a lot of reasons, this being one of them. So I can take an action item on that, on just like posting something and then following up with whoever replies.
Yeah, so I'm also happy to help out there. One more thing is, one of these adoptions will have to then be included in the specification. So I think actually only one has to be entirely public. I think that's something else that still needs to be cleared up. But I can.
Yeah, but I think we don't need. I think we don't need this because it would be for a specification only. But given that we want to have obviously the full incubation, including flag D, so I think that would easily be doable. I think we can get it for one implementation of the specification easily, because flag D is an implementation. Then we have others with like feature flags and others. I think we just need to frame it properly, that there's like a number of implementations being available. I'm also planning to meet tomorrow with Stims and also get the TUC prepared for moving in that we're moving in that direction. Yeah.
So is the criteria that it needs to be something like basically being used in the wild, like by a company of a certain size or something like that? Okay.
The size of the company does not matter. The only thing that they want is by actual adopters that are not vendors. Well, this is kind of like an in-between kind of situation. I think we have obviously eBay using it. If we have other projects that actually have providers for it, where we have a lot of them. So I think we have just to frame it properly, and then we should be totally good. So I don't see any issues coming up there. I just want to get some of those questions out of the way, like being here at KubeCon, getting a chance to talk to the TUC chairs directly.
Yeah, it's funny because we've got like multiple companies on the vendor side that are providing implementations, but that doesn't really, I guess that doesn't count as they're using it, they're kind of providing. It
counts, but what the TUC is going to do, they will do end user interviews. So interviews with customers who are using it. We need companies who are using OpenFeature, and they want to talk to them. That's how it works.
Interesting. Cool.
All right. Is anything else on that topic? Perfect. Looks like Justin, you're up next.
Yep. Perfect. So there's a few things on my mental list of things that are on the roadmap post KubeCon. One is I've had chats with people in mobile, and they have unique needs that are different than backend needs. And so thinking through what if anything needs to change in the spec or be added to the spec in order to support mobile clients. I don't have as close of a relationship with the web people at eBay, but I'll chat with them also for client-side flagging. We do a lot of server-side rendering, and so I'm not sure that we're even naturally in the right spot to have that expertise. I think a natural follow-on to feature flagging is like experimentation, thinking through how we operate within the context of an experimentation platform. eBay has its own view, given that we do experimentation. That's planning to be entirely done via OpenFeature. And so that might just be writing from us to say like what we're doing and why. But we should have some sort of opinion on how experimentation fits or doesn't fit. I know Todd yesterday mentioned that tracking events may be something that we need to take a position on or at least allude to. So that's something in that list. And then the last one that I've not written here yet is config. When I think through how we get adoption in other open source projects, part of me thinks that we should have OpenFeature be the entry point to configuration, because it shouldn't really matter what the storage mechanism is for your flags. Like if it's on a flat file or if it's in Kubernetes something, or it's in a remote API call, you shouldn't change how you get access to, is this feature enabled based on that. And so that suggests a pile of work. And at least in some of the conversations I've had at eBay, that may be difficult from a spec perspective. As in the context of multi-module giant Java projects. So.
Can you talk more about what you mean by, are you saying like, you know, if you squint and look at it, really all configuration is just kind of like feature flags. So maybe we should expose. Yeah.
Like if you want to know if a feature is enabled, some people would say, oh yeah, you put that in your config.ini file.
Right.
And then it's on or off. And some people would say, cool, but I don't want to hard code the data representation in my open source library. You just provide config in some magic config way.
Got it.
Like specifically in the context of eBay, we have a giant config system, and then we have a giant feature flagging system that's new, and people are asking the question, how do I choose what's config and what's not?
Yeah.
And the answer I want to give them is, it's the same API. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I think there's two parts. There's kind of like two sides of the same thing, and maybe they're the same, or maybe they're just like. So one is, can we use configuration as a data source for our feature flag things, like basically for our feature flag config? The other is, can we use our feature flagging provider, or sorry, can we use our feature flagging API, like OpenFeature, like evaluation API, as a way of accessing config, right? And those are kind of like overlapping, but they're actually kind of like almost like the inverse of each other, right?
Yep.
So I think I definitely think we should think about this at some point. Just because from what it's worth, whenever I'm like consulting with people about feature flags, this always comes up, particularly at like a bigger place like eBay, where it's like, we already have like 3 or 4 different config systems. Do we want to add a 5th? Can we use this to expose that? Can we like hook it into the existing thing? So I agree that it's worth thinking about. I'm also just like, this is just my 2 cents, right? Like it's a pretty big can of worms to open, particularly because I think where you see people wanting to do this more is like at really big engineering orgs, where things get really complicated and are very, very, and like tend to be like very specific for a specific organization. So I'm like almost like nervous about making it too much.
Yeah, I just think
it's
something. I mean, the line's certainly blurred, I think, between like kind of feature flagging and configurations. And even 100%. If you look at like the method names and stuff, it's like basically like get Boolean value or something like that. So like really like, you know, you could use it however you want. And maybe it makes sense to either have a stance or at least recommendations, you know, that maybe help answer the question, like, is it remote configuration management? if we're hard against it, we maybe want to have a compelling reason why. And if we're for it, maybe we want to give some like reasons to avoid it if it's going to introduce unnecessary complexity or something like that. So it's probably more of a documentation problem at this point. But it's something that we should think about because it comes up all the time.
I don't feel like the project needs to make a declaration of what people should do, but making it possible seems useful. In particular, like there's some mismatches between the way that eBay handles its config and the global singleton client divide, where like we would actually rather the provider live on the client rather than the API. And so I've not thought all the way through it, and so I need to spend more time, but there's some tension there that needs to get resolved.
Okay.
Can I just made a proposal? Can we try to put this into an open feature enhancement proposal, but we'll have some of the discussions there? I think we don't necessarily have all of them documented yet, but I think that would be a good starting point to also give others the opportunity to comment on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Justin, would there be something you
I
could
think the same is
kind
for
of put together
provider support. We talked about it, but we never formalized it because eventually this should then be used also for roadmap planning, which enhancement proposals we move into the roadmap. And also for transparency, I think it's helpful to have them over there in discussions.
Okay, it looks like Tom had a quick question about multi-provider support. So right now I have actually a pull request for the JavaScript SDK to kind of experiment with a multi-provider provider. So like a super provider or whatever we want to call it. And it basically works based on the order that you register the providers, and it will check the first one and then move to the second one. There could be more elegant ways to do it. And you know, like Justin's saying, maybe you want to have a provider registered for client. That's out of scope for what I've done so far. But to do the basics of having multiple providers, you know, registered is pretty straightforward actually. So you can look at my pull request right now, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to go over it with you.
And am I right that like it should be like kind of like totally just like in user land, right? Like there's nothing special about these providers. They just happen to be providers that are backed by other providers, kind of.
Yeah, the only challenge I ran into was basically we have those provider hooks, and so there was no clean way to call the provider hook for just the provider that was going to run. So I just basically bubbled them up to the super provider and run through all of them. So that was the only like caveat. Everything else just works, you know, pretty easily as like a combination provider or something. So
yeah.
Did we have the technical committee already have a statement on this? Sorry, I'm just trying to afford a bit more.
a statement on what? Which one?
The multi-provider one. I think we have other like, do we want to enforce orders? What are we doing if multiple providers provide value for the same feature flag?
Well, the multi-provider is literally a provider. So that's kind of the interesting part about the way it works.
Multi-providers are out of scope for the spec. It's
Yeah,
a user land concern, and if there's problems, then bring it up.
I mean, I think it, you know, maybe it would be worth providing like a not like a formal kind of like definition of like how the sequencing and order would work, but maybe just like documenting like here's how we've like it's been done in this reference implementation of it, just so that
exactly. I was thinking about writing like a little blog post for how to once it's merged in, and just show like, you know, you can register multiple ones. It goes in this order, and why you may want to use it. Like if you're, you know, going from like basically like hard-coded feature flags to like a other solution, then you can basically use that as a way to transition. There's a lot of reasons why you may want to have like a super provider or whatever, which we still kind of need to come up with the brand. I think maybe what was your suggestion? Composite provider or something.
It feels like it's a composite, like in the old school like Gang of Four design pattern sense. It's a composite, but
yeah, I think that's what Hotel used as well. So I'm gonna probably go with some term like that. And yeah, sorry about that. There's like trash cans rolling around here, so I'm not sure if you can hear us real well. Okay. Did you have any Okay, yeah, we kind of got off on that. Does that answer your question, Tom? Perfect, cool. All right, Todd, it looks like you're.
Thanks. Okay, so yeah, the only thing I really wanted to talk about on this point was we have a blog post that talks about, I wrote a blog post that talks about the release of our 1.0 SDK. So that includes Java, .NET, TypeScript/JavaScript, and Go. So those have all moved into 1.0, which was a goal we had for KubeCon. We made it in kind of just under the wire. So thanks everybody who helped with that. And feel free to promote that blog post. Link to it if anybody sees any edits they want to make. It's not too late. We can still update the text or whatever, but it is public, so I put in the link there. And that's been good to have because people have specifically asked about that at KubeCon. A lot of people have kind of heard of us. I'm kind of traveling into the next topic now, but a lot of people heard of us at Valencia. They heard about the project between Valencia and now, and the impressions were like, oh, I'm really interested in this, but clearly it's very, very early. So having 1.0 SDKs is something that is really appealing. They're also really interested to see the amount of providers we have documented. That's been really exciting too. So we've had a lot of good feedback at the booth, a lot of interest, a lot of people, like I said, who are familiar with the project and really happy to see how far it's come in 6 months, and frankly, a little bit surprised to see how far it's come in 6 months. So it's been a very positive thing. So promote. Right now, what we're trying to do is, grow adoption. That was something that we talked about earlier in the meeting. So promote internally, promote externally, like, share, subscribe, that kind of stuff. I think that's all I wanted to say on those topics. Short and sweet. Anybody have any questions?
When people were surprised, I think there's two like directions of the growth, right? Maybe there's three, but there's two that I'm thinking of. There's like the number of providers, and then there's the number of like languages, like SDKs. Do you have a sense of like which people were more excited about or interested in, or is it?
The way I'd characterize it is everybody is just relieved to hear their language is supported, and most of the people I happened to talk to were relieved to see that their language was supported. And I think we made some pretty intelligent choices on where we focused effort. And it's probably also not an accident, right? There's a lot of people here who are coming from enterprise backgrounds, and they use the kind of big enterprise languages that are popular right now. So people are just relieved to know that their language of interest is supported. And then with providers, people are excited to see a lot of the vendors that are available. We specifically had people say, oh, I wanted to purchase such and such a vendor. My team kind of approved it, but the engineering team told me that I have to wrap their SDK before they'll use it in production. And we were just able to say, hey, we did that for you. So that was very exciting. I think there's just a lot of excitement to see that either your language or the vendor of choice is supported. But that goes for cases even when people haven't purchased a vendor or started any feature flagging adoption in production.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm just asking because I'm just thinking from like a marketing perspective, like what is it that gets people excited about it? Is it that their vendor is supported, or is it like, I mean, it sounds like part of it is this vendor agnostic thing of like being able to say we're not locked into launch darkly or split or whatever.
Well, that's really what we offer. I think that's one of the initial appeals. I mean, there's a lot more than that behind the scenes, but that's like one of the very easy pitches to understand from the get-go.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that? Yeah, we'll try to send some pictures from the booth. It's pretty cool. We have our logo up there. They gave us a little section. We have the morning shift, so it's about 4-hour morning shift. It seemed we didn't have a ton of traffic, but steady traffic, and the people we did talk to seemed very interested in it or had already heard about it. We just talked through a lot of different scenarios, gave a few demos. We happen to be right across from the Argo booth, which is also cool because they get a lot of traffic over there too. So we've been kind of chatting it up, and hopefully there's opportunities maybe to work with them and the OTEL team and a few other CNCF projects, see where those integrations can really make sense. But yeah, all good here. We'll see how today goes. We also have a session tomorrow, and then Alex has a presentation on Friday, and so do I. So hopefully you'll. Unfortunately, it's at the end of the week, so no one will have an opportunity to go see the booth after that. But they'll all be recorded. Hopefully we can gain some interest off of those as well. Yeah, looks like that's basically all we have on the list. If anyone else has anything, feel free to add it or just unmute and ask right now. We also have James here. He just showed up a few minutes late, but if anyone wanted to say hi, so we got a pretty good turnout here.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Go try and get
sorry,
a team photo.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off, Pete. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was just saying you got to try and get a group photo while you've.
Yeah, I think maybe
in
by the
person.
booth. Would
Yeah,
be
we should
great.
do one by the booth. That's a good idea. Yeah.
So,
We'll send out a message to anybody at KubeCon to come meet us at the booth at a certain time, and we'll do another group photo.
yeah. And we'll Photoshop you and Pete. Don't worry.
Great.
All right. And it looks like John joined a little bit after we did the intros. If you don't mind, John, would you mind introducing yourself quickly?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep, sounds great.
Yeah, so I guess my name's John Rowley. I've been working in software for like 10 years now, and I love like metric observability things, and also trying to progressively or more iteratively roll out functionality. And kind of heard about you guys like last month, and then saw you here at KubeCon yesterday. Stopped by and talked for a bit, and I guess kind of really excited for this project and the direction it's going.
How did you hear about us, John? Just out of curiosity, how did you hear about us?
I was looking for. So right now we have like a really half-baked like internal, like for my team only, kind of we rolled our own solution for some feature flags, and I'm always like trolling CNCF for like, okay, is this something that we can replace some stuff that we home rolled with a open standard that's proven, that's out there, and or maybe not necessarily proven, but is on the trajectory for this. So I found you guys through the CNCF kind of name branding, and then started investigating and getting ready to try and put OpenFeature into production soon.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks. Welcome. Nice to meet you. And yeah, if you have any questions, swing by the booth or ping us on Slack. Cool.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. I guess we can go ahead and wrap up. Well, have a nice day, everyone.
Okay. Everyone.
Bye.
Talk to you later. All right. Goodbye.